In the first video, we covered the structure, the layers, the fascia, the muscles, ligaments, and bone, and how restriction in one layer propagates through all of them. In the second video, we covered the blood, the artery as supreme, drainage as the prerequisite for supply, and the lymphatic system as a pump with no heart. Both of these systems, structure and blood, are managed, coordinated, and continuously monitored by something above them, the command layer, the nervous system. But here's what most people misunderstand about the nervous system. It's not just a pain alarm. It's not a simple reporting system that sends a signal when something breaks. It is the active interpreter of everything happening in your body, and like any interpreter, it can get the translation wrong. In this video, we're going into the command layer, what it does, what happens when the communication line is disrupted, and why the pain in your back might not have nothing to do with your back at all. Because your body speaks in code, and most pain protocols have been trying to solve the symptom without reading the message. Before we get to restrictions and referral patterns, we need to understand what the nervous system is actually running in the background, because it's a longer list than most people realize. First are the obvious functions, movements and sensation. The nervous system sends motor commands to your muscles and receives sensory feedback from the body. That's the part people learn in school. Here's some less obvious functions. The nervous system controls vascular tone, the degree of constriction or dilation in every blood vessel in your body. It coordinates immune cell trafficking. It regulates organ function, that's heart rate, digestive motility, respiratory rate, and hormonal secretion. And it continuously builds and updates an internal map of where every part of your body is in space. The walls of your blood vessels even have their own nerve supply. These are called the nerva vasorum, literally the nerves of the vessels. Small nerve fibers running within the walls of arteries, regulating their tone, which modulates their diameter and therefore the volume of blood they can carry. Think of it this way. Every artery in your body has a wire running through it, communicating from the brain about how wide it needs to be. Now imagine that wire is passing through a puddle, a region of tissue that is inflamed, congested, or structurally compromised. That puddle changes the electrical environment around the wire. The signal changes. The vessel doesn't receive clean instructions. Its tone becomes dysregulated, contracted, or dilating, not in response to the tissue's actual need, but in response to a corrupted signal. Every artery has a wire. A restriction creates a puddle, and a wire through a puddle doesn't carry a proper signal. This is why somatic restriction isn't just a mechanical problem. It's a neural problem. And a neural problem is always a vascular problem, because the two systems are inseparable. Now let's look at what a physical restriction actually is at the level of the nervous system. The standard description is mechanical. The joint has lost some of its range of motion. A spinal segment that doesn't move freely through its full range. That's accurate, but it's the surface of a much more complex event. The nervous system continuously builds a map of your body, a real-time internal model of where every joint is and how it's moving and what forces are passing through it. The map is constructed from afferent, meaning towards, input, the continuous stream of positional data arriving from mechanoreceptors in your joints, capsules, ligaments, muscles, and fascia. When a joint is restricted, genuinely restricted, not just stiff from a good workout, the quality of that afferent input changes. The mechanoreceptors in the restricted segment fire differently. Position data arriving at the spinal cord and brain become inaccurate. The map the brain is building is no longer matching the territory of the actual body. The brain responds to this discrepancy the way that any command system responds to a corrupted data feed. It generates a protective response. The muscle tone increases around the segment. This leads to something called facilitation of that segment, described by osteopathic researcher Ivan Kor. This is a spinal segment where the threshold for neural firing has been lowered by sustained, altered afferent input. That segment becomes hyperreactive. It fires more easily, and it influences everything at its spinal level, including the organs whose nerves supply originates there. This explains why treating only the mechanical component of a restriction, mobilizing the joint or releasing the muscle, sometimes works only temporarily. If the afferent input quality hasn't been restored, the map is still corrupted. The brain continues to generate the same protective response. The restriction rebuilds. The goal isn't only to restore range of motion, it's to restore signal quality. Here is where the command layer gets the most clinically interesting and where the most important diagnostic errors occur. Your spinal cord receives afferent signals from two very different sources. The soma, which is your body, your muscles, your joints, your skin, your fascia, and the viscera, That's your internal organs like your heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, or digestive tract. At each spinal level, these two streams of data converge onto the neurons in the same area, what's called the dorsal horn. The brain receives both signals through the same relay station, and it frequently cannot distinguish which source the alarm is coming from. This is called convergence, and it is the mechanism behind most referred pain patterns in the body. The heart's afferent nerve supply travels into the spinal cord at T1 through T4 or 5. The shoulder, upper arm, and jaw also feed into those same levels. When cardiac ischemia generates a pain signal, the brain receives it through the same relay used by the left arm. It has more experience interpreting that relay as somatic than as visceral, so the left arm is blamed, and the heart may go unexamined. Your body speaks in code. The organ in distress and the muscles above it share the same highway into the brain, and the brain can't always tell who's calling. The gallbladder refers to the right shoulder via the phrenic nerve. That's nerve roots at C3, 4, and 5, the same cervical segments supplying your shoulder. The kidney refers to the mid-back and flank, sharing thoracolumbar afferents with the quadratus lumborum. The liver, irritated by intolerable foods or plagued with dysfunction, generates tip-of-the-shoulder pain through the same mechanism. Every one of these patterns is the same event: visceral afferent input arriving at a spinal level shared by somatic structures, producing a pain experience the brain localizes to the body because that's where it's learned to look. This is why your back pain might actually be your organs, not metaphorically, neurologically. Now for the direction that makes this relevant to osteopathic treatment, because the convergence runs both ways. If visceral afferents can be misread as somatic pain, then somatic restrictions can alter the neural environment of the viscera at the same level. A vertebral restriction at T4 or 5 creates a facilitated segment, lowering firing threshold and increasing sympathetic tone at that level. The sympathetic nerve supply to your heart originates from those segments. Sustained sympathetic facilitation at T4 or 5 creates a background of increased cardiac sympathetic tone, faster rate, increased contractility, and altered coronary vascular tone. This is not speculation. Osteopathic research has documented ECG changes associated with thoracic somatic dysfunction, cardiac arrhythmias with T4 and 5 restrictions, gastrointestinal motility changes with mid-thoracic and lumbar restrictions altering the sympathetic supply to your gut. It's not a coincidence if you hurt your back, then have digestive issues or diarrhea shortly after, or develop IBS 6 months down the road. The spine isn't just a structural column, it's the command hub for every organ at its level, and a restriction there changes the instructions. The lungs are supplied by your lower cervicals and upper dorsals, the stomach by T6 through 9, the liver and gallbladder by T6 through 9 as well, the small intestine by T9 to 11. An osteopath examining a patient with recurrent gastrointestinal symptoms will examine the thoracic spine and thoracolumbar junction, not because the gut and spine are mechanically connected, but because they share a neural command system at that spinal level. The restriction isn't causing the organ disease, but it's altering the neural environment that the organ operates in. And like I mentioned earlier, the vasculature and the nerves cannot be separated. So not only is the neural command of the organs altered, but the blood flow associated with those organs is also altered. If you treat the restriction, you restore the signal quality, you remove the facilitated state, and the organ's autonomic environment changes with it. Now the complete picture across all three videos is visible. In the first one, structure provides the housing. The layers, the fascia, the joints, the ligaments, and the bone form a continuous architecture, and a restriction in any layer propagates through all of them, eventually encoding dysfunction into the skeleton through Wolff's Law. In video 2, the blood provides the chemistry. The arterial supply delivers what the cells need, the drainage removes what the work produces. When either side is compromised, the tissue's chemical environment deteriorates, and the chemistry changes before the structure does. In this video, the nervous system provides a command. It monitors the structure, regulates the blood supply through the nerva and the vasorum, and builds the brain's map of the body, and coordinates organs at every level. A restriction corrupts the map. A facilitated segment alters an organ. A convergence of visceral and somatic afferents produces a body symptom from an organ source. Structure, blood, and nerve alter any one of them and the other two compensate, and that compensation has a cost, and it accumulates over years before a symptom names it. This is the osteopathic model in full, not a collection of techniques for back pain. It's a framework for understanding why a body stops functioning, from the architecture through the chemistry to the command layer that coordinates both. Anyone can find the symptom. The question is what's upstream of it. This series has been building one argument. Structure dictates function, supply depends on drainage, and the command system that coordinates both can be compromised at the joint, at the segment, or at the organ, producing a symptom somewhere else entirely. If you've been chasing a symptom for years that never fully resolves, the answer may not be in the tissue that hurts. It may be in the layer above it, the chemistry around it, or the spinal level commanding it. Follow this series. Each episode is one more tool for reading what your body is actually trying to say. This is Osteopathy. We are not looking for disease. We are looking for health.